All right, here we are.
Okay, hot mics.
Okay, and we have Michael on. Just want to make sure. Okay, let's do a roll call. We have a couple of changes. Judy,
All right, here, hold on. So we have Judy Neville, Tom Schulte,
Here.
Amy Carroll. Todd Lavieri,
Here.
Michael Chen is here. Chris Labrie.
Here.
Victor Alvarez,
Here.
Maria Weingarten,
Here.
Robert Ham,
Here.
Colin Dobbins. So it's all present.
okay, very good. No, yeah, we need an alternate. Well,
Well,
Maria's
no,
been
we have-
appointed. You're
yeah, she's
official.
already
Town council.
official.
everything.
Town
Yeah.
council's not approved next week.
Okay, so we do need to
she is
appoint,
not.
we
Oh,
need
I
to
thought
appoint
she
Maria to
was.
replace
Okay.
Neil.
Yeah, all right. So motion. All right.
Second,
Second.
second, Chris
She
Labrie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. All right, Maria. Okay, motion to approve the minutes
So
as
moved.
edited by, oh. So moved, Tom Schulte, second. Second, Victor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed? None. First selectman update.
Okay, good evening. Board of Finance, good to see you all in person. I'll start with COVID as I always do. Most recent update is the health department has moved temporarily to Irwin House, where they will continue to do all the activities they did at Vine Cottage for the next 3 or 4 weeks while Vine Cottage is painted. Get the lead paint out of Vine Cottage. And they will continue to do vaccinations, boosters, including this under 5-year-olds, which is about the only area you can get boosted under 5-year-olds because most of the pediatricians are now doing it. Testing weekly 3 times as well as the rapid tests. And we've had a bit of an uptick. We have a few employees that have gotten positive in the past week. So maybe we have a new uptick with a new variant coming, but capital projects quickly. You personally are hopefully seeing the repavements going on Main Street and off South Avenue, Mead Street. A lot of paving being done and will be done. You also see, unfortunately, Elm Street being dug up not only by Eversource Gas, as well as Grove Street and Pine Street, but also Aquarian is in Elm Street from Main to Park Street. Soon, our infrastructure will be done and we'll be repaving, but obviously we're not done yet. You see that 123 is being done by the state as they promised, but they're only going to do, they're not doing the whole thing. They didn't have the budget to do the whole thing. And they'll do the rest next year. Lapham Center, as I've previously said, will follow on for installation of the gas from Old Stamford Road, which will include hopefully not only the pool and the paddle courts, but also Waveney House, which came as a great surprise to us. CHP is now operating in Town Hall, and hopefully someday it'll be operating at Saks, but they are still fooling around with their installation over there. So that's all moving forward. 220 Elm, Gridiron Capital moved out on Friday. We meet next week again with the superintendent. We're having monthly meetings for their planned renovations. We have had discussions. We have an agreement in principle with the owner of 39 Locust to move the police there, but I think schedule may be slipping. So we may want the superintendent to stay at 39 Locust beyond March, possibly to June. He's got it in his budget. But anyway, we need to finalize the discussion with the owner of 39 Locust for the police if you move forward and the town council moves forward on that project. Cinema Lab and the Playhouse, we were pleased to sign the LOI. And the architect contracts have been approved by the Board of Selectmen for the interior and exterior work, and Cinema Lab is doing their fundraise. And I'm not sure it's really relevant to the Board of Finance, but we had a discussion this morning at the Board of Selectmen meeting about a West Cell Tower, because Home of the Towers came forth and said Verizon would like to build a tower 843 feet behind West School on the 47 acres the town owns there. We've searched for other locations in the West without success today. If there's another location, we'd be happy to find it. But in the meantime, since Verizon has a funded plan to do a tower, we have to take that seriously if we are serious about solving our cell phone service problem. And ARPA. Silver Hill Hospital started yesterday with their assessment program and have the first appointment for Thursday. And very excited to have that program get launched. You recall we gave them $250,000 to do a pilot program. Darien did not join us. I hope they will. And otherwise, the Board of Selectmen will be bringing forth some more ARPA items. I expect in 2 weeks, you're going to discuss the status of the ARPA funds. Finally, Russ Kimes started last week as our permanent full-time EMD, and we're very happy to have Russ on board. So
Okay.
that's my update. Any questions?
I have a question. Is it, do we know how the dollar amount on Cinema Labs raise their equity ratio, where they are on that?
I don't know that I know a precise number. I think they're happy with the reception they're getting. And
And do they have a time frame? They have to raise it within?
they have to sign the lease probably in August, and they have to give us $300,000. So they have to have the confidence to proceed to sign a lease.
Okay,
That's
thank
an
you.
important next step.
Mhm.
And by the way, Nick Howard, who you all met, is confident, and I think all the indications are they will succeed with their fundraising.
Yeah.
By the end of August or the beginning of August, just as July, it's July.
Yeah.
mid-
Well, actually, we accelerated having the lease done. Really to get it through all the approval processes. They had always anticipated August. And so we don't have a specific time in August, but
Any other questions? Okay, Ann and Josh? A near year end final update.
So I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so you should have this on your tablets, of course. These are the very preliminary financials as of June 30th. And of course, I would stress very preliminary. There's still a bunch of revenue and mainly expenses that we're still waiting to book. So you'll see that starting with the revenue side, the overall revenue is at 101.36% of what was budgeted, which is around 2 million over, which is kind of what we were anticipating.
I don't know if everyone can read it on their
It's a little
tablets. I
tight,
know you-
Yeah.
Plan B on the screen is not necessarily a great plan B, but can we just take a second and just tick through them one at a time? And maybe commentary. So tax collection, we're 1.6 million
Sure.
to the good and so forth, just to give everyone a view. And any thoughts you might have or anything you think might change. So we're 2 million over budget. So more revenue than expected, which is good.
But that's assuming we bring in 98.5%.
Well, since the report, well, from a tax, just in general, since the report was run, we booked another $200,000 in other fees. And we have another about 300,000.
There we go.
Park and Rec.
Okay.
Not bad.
So.
Keep it coming.
Go through them.
Yeah.
So 2.5
That's the
million.
revenue side. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah,
All
but
right.
that helps.
And again, like that's what I meant. Comments like that. If you got other
Sure.
little
Yeah.
updates or something.
Right, yeah,
Let's spin through them. It's important.
Right, yeah, so on the tax collection side, I think we're
up
at,
to date. Yeah, we're at the, we're.
is
up
it
to date.
99.5%?
that.
Just about
We
99.5%.
have year-end entries we have to make audit wise, which take about a month or so to get
Okay.
them in.
So we're at 1.7 million to the good on that.
Mhm.
Building permits are 140% of what was budgeted, and that's 325,000 from what we expected. Conveyance fees are twice what was budgeted actually, and that's over 1 million to the good.
May not last.
Parking is
You know what? I'm sorry. Refresh my memory. What did we budget for this year? Was it 2 million even
for this, yes.
for
I believe
conveyance?
it
We
was,
brought
yeah.
it down a considerable amount from what we were projecting for this
Yes.
year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Parking is 60% of what was budgeted, which is 145,000 under.
Hmm.
There's probably, I think, around another 70 or so thousand parking that will be booked also to bring it a little
Do you
bit
remember what we
closer.
booked for the coming year for parking?
Yeah.
This,
I could look at it. It was less than what we had anticipated for this year.
Yeah.
let's See, I could tell you right now if you like.
there may be a problem.
What?
Just hitting parking may be a problem. Sure.
I thought we.
I don't think we can count on a $1 million good guy.
So
on
parking
conveyance.
was 890,000.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And so moving on to other revenues is slightly down actually from last month's report because of market swings taking an effect on unrealized losses and gains, which pushes it to 85% of what was budgeted at 640,000 under. And overall on the expense side, it is at.
I'm sorry, just to close, do you think we'll
Sure.
be about 2.5 million to the good?
Yes.
That's a good guess?
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
yeah.
All right.
And on the expense side, the report shows that it's 96.6%, but we pretty much expect to hit it on the mark at 100% as budgeted.
Definitely on the town side.
What, the other revenues, what is the major component of that?
So the major components are transfer ins like from extra duty, that's part of it. The unrealized gains and losses are part of it. If you go towards,
Gains and losses
On what?
on
That's
the-
what.
On what?
what was that? Oh,
Gains and losses on.
that's like on our UBS and Janie accounts.
Okay, okay.
But you can see, if
Okay.
you
Okay.
go towards, don't have the page number here, there is kind of a breakdown of everything that falls under that other revenue category. You know, things like dog licenses and
Heard from the
zoning.
end.
It's operating transfer in, which is kind of what makes up the vast majority of it.
Transfers in from,
Other funds,
okay,
like from extra duty fund to the general fund.
But unrealized gains and losses, non-cash item,
I think you're really talking about interest income.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Just going through these,
But why would your interest income be at a negative variance with rates going up?
so we have to bring the balance sheet in line with where the value of those investments are. We have to put those unrealized gains and losses on the P and L, so that's why they're showing up on the P and L side.
Oh, because you bought security.
So some of them are longer than a year, and so rates
Yeah, okay,
can,
shift
you know,
back
rates
to
have
market,
hit the
okay.
value of them, but they're not, they should not be principally impaired under any
Yeah, right.
circumstance. I mean, I've looked at them.
Okay, I get it.
so items like, we got some, 6-figure favorable variances where we're underspending. But I don't know if it's cleaned up to get year end. So
Mhm.
land use, looks like insurance liability, police, fire, all over $100,000.
So we have.
Transfer station, is that all,
Are you
that,
talking about expenses?
yeah, it looks like they're all, those are a lot of favorable.
They're favorables because, well, if you take the Board of Ed out, that's 3.9. So out of
We'll
that.
we'll
five-
talk about that. That's a
Yeah,
big,
so out of the 5,000,008, I think it was,
Yep.
Yep.
take out 3.9 straight away from the Board of Ed.
yep, okay,
Um,
about 2
then
million, yeah.
We have, because of the counting cutoffs, we have a payroll coming up this week that actually takes into account 4 days of June. So that gets booked back. That's about another $350,000.
Okay,
So a lot of those favorabilities in the departments will get reduced because their salary lines are all going to get
Mhm.
hit, their salary and any related taxes and that. We have still some, we're catching up on all the bills, that we have a lot of bills to still pay. We did, over 250,000. Not that I'm proud that we're cranking out that level of bills, but we're catching up with all the bills for the end of the year. So some of these encumbrances that you see in these columns and also some of the savings will be gone.
okay,
Then we have items we actually have to cover.
Okay.
So you'll see with some of them, when we talk about some of the transfers that we're looking for actual approvals, we've been moving around because we had an incinerator area that was damaged. That was 150,000 in expenses that we weren't expecting, but we got about 100 and something from the insurance. So there's 50,000-60,000 loss we weren't expecting. We have comp payouts that we did. That was about 200,000. It's not in the budget. So it will take up any of those savings. So I'm going through those right now to make sure everything's covered, and you'll see those transfers coming from savings to
Okay.
different lines. too, right?
Okay. Okay. Okay, so,
What about debt service? Debt service is favorable by
Debt,
200.
debt service, actually, I thought was, I actually thought I was worried for a moment. I thought we were under because I was only looking at a portion because I realized the debt service is broken out between town and Board of Ed. So one is under, one is over, so I have to do a transfer between the two, and then it is slightly savings that I'll need those to bring to other lines. You're correct. And that's an estimate because we don't know at the point we do the reimbursement versus bonding up front, so we know what our bonding is for the next budget year. You usually know it if you bond it up front, but we do in arrears, so we have to estimate what that interest
Right.
payment is going to be.
so 3.9 million Board of Ed, what's that?
So the Board of Ed, their year is quite different to ours.
Right.
Their payroll for July and August still needs to be booked back because that goes back into that's what they call their 12-month employees.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Teachers
Mhm.
stop in June, then they pay July and August.
Right.
That gets brought back into June. So, that could be anywhere up to probably about $500,000.
Okay.
Then they have their accounts payable things that we do on our side for all July and August. They have to stop around mid-August because they have to file their report by the end of by August to the state. I don't know what that level of expenditure is.
But those, I mean, there's cash and then there's paying the bill and there's getting the bill. If we've gotten the bill, we've accounted for it, or no?
Not always,
Oh,
not always.
okay.
If there was no encumbrance put in,
Oh, okay.
that's how
I got
we know if the encumbrance is there, we know we've incurred a liability somewhere.
So the 500 is a good benchmark for the 12-month employees. You have an AP estimate?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
I looked at last year, but I don't know because of the different, criteria between COVID and last year. It was about $900,000
Okay, okay,
in bills.
okay. So that leaves you 2.5.
And I can't speak to whatever else they might have, but I
Okay.
was just looking year over year.
Okay, okay. Well, anything over comes back.
True.
Anything that they
True.
don't spend.
Any savings goes back to the
Yeah,
town.
okay, all right. Now there's a question, as you remember from budgeting on the ISF. We
Mhm.
decided to agree to do this in August to get a sense in terms of just to your point, what's billed and what needs to be paid, and there's always a delay and all that kind of thing. Do you have an estimate in terms of what do you think they will need? Where are they on their ISF? What do they have for a balance?
So we got some updates from them yesterday, so I went in and added in because they have a stop loss. Right now, barring anything else coming up, they've dipped into their 40%. So they'll have a reserve of about $900,000.
Out of 1.1?
1.1. So they
1.2?
need about,
Okay.
$200,000 to $300,000 to make them
Okay,
whole for
okay.
the 40%.
And our 1.6 is still there.
Our 1.6 is
Okay.
on our fund balance.
All
Yeah,
right. So they have 2.5 million. The reserve has $2.5 million. Okay.
technically, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and then the town is fine on our side.
So we will decide, and I don't think we need a special meeting for this. We could do this in September. If we need to move 200,000 back to take up their,
Yes,
There
they
was-
need to make it up for
That's
their
fine.
40%.
Okay.
'cause
Aren't you
they
having
did
a
dip
meeting
into it.
in August?
rather not talk about it.
Well, yeah.
If I took a vote, I think it's going down.
They have the cash to cover it, so
That's
it's to
fine,
make their
whatever.
40% whole.
We may do a virtual.
So
TBD.
they always
Oh.
tap theirs first, of the 40-60 split, it always gets tapped to the 40% because it's on their books.
Right, they
They're
go
Yeah.
into their
Yeah.
40% and then
And we true up.
we
Yep.
true it up with
Yep, it's fine.
it should be trued up by the 60% that the town
Mhm.
has on the
We have to do a virtual.
fund balance.
Okay, so 200K, but we'll figure this out in August. All right. Anything else on that?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, well, good news on the revenue and we don't know on the expense. My guess is you're gonna have something. Josh you depressed me today when you show me 5 million and then you tell me it's really going to zero. I don't know what to think, but
I'm hoping not. It's just until those last,
fair.
I'm looking through the
I'm just
bigger
kidding.
ones, we've two months of hydrant has to come in. That's a 60,000 hit, so I'm looking at the big tickets going, did all the
Yeah.
12 months come in yet? So I can get a
Okay.
feel for where we
all
are,
right,
but
okay.
I want to be conservative and say definitely zero. If not, I think.
All right,
maybe
well, preliminarily, that's a good finish. Okay. Any other
Mhm.
questions? You don't like it, Amy? You don't think?
I know, it's just, I think in the past, this might be a little tighter than we haven't.
With that,
had
usually
it.
a little more money coming from being underspending. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
That's right.
and and because, and I only say that because, we have been using, their replenishment, for the money that we typically will allocate from the general fund to pay down the taxes. And
Mhm.
we always go, we'll get this much back. So we'll have to see how
Exactly.
how we replenish the general fund, as, it's, it sounds to me like the schools almost have operating on 2 months later cycle. So, their money that's not spent. So I'm just saying that, we have for the last number of years, one of the policies that we've been doing in terms to keep the tax rates low is we've been using
Mm,
our general fund balance and, we may not be replenishing it the same way this year.
could be.
Well,
We'll see.
there is another area I'm looking at, but I don't want to, be too confident on it yet, is that the FEMA money and the
I was just.
the CRF money that's coming in, we've had additional money come in. The problem is I was working with Bill and now I'll be working with Russ as well. And I just talked to them yesterday on it. I need to see the timeline of those funds coming in. If they're funds from last year, they go to miscellaneous revenue, we can't touch it, and that goes to the fund balance. If it's related to something they applied for from January and December of July to December of last year, I'm going to look at those expenditures that they asked for and take that out of our general fund and put it to the grant. So it is somewhat of a wash, but at least it'll get the expenditures out of our books and put where they are. And then we have some right now that we're applying for. If we can get confirmation that they'll be paid before we close the audit, I can get those expenditures out now. So that's what I'm saying. We're kind of in this holding pattern of finding out, can we do it yet? I need a confirmation to say yes. And then I can move the expenses to the grants. So
Where are you accruing that? For
we have
the
a grant
money's come?
fund. So if we get confirmation that we have a grant coming in or the expenditures can be moved at that point. So if with the applications that are out there now, if we receive a letter saying, yes, it's been approved, it will be covered, I would take the related expenditures that were applied to that, take them out of the general fund and put them into the grants. And then when the revenue finally comes in, it washes.
Yeah.
So I'm watching those as well.
Yeah, so we can figure it out by the end.
Right.
And put it back. Yeah.
There's a couple of moving pieces.
Was there one other thing? This came up, I think, a month ago. Well, we didn't address it. I think we should pick it up in September. It had to do with, correct me if I'm wrong, something about the athletic, not the town sports,
Oh, recreation department?
the recreation department
Yes.
wanting to, they were exceeding their revenue and would need to exceed their expense to take care of that, I think. And so there was,
think
there's,
so. Yeah.
well, I mean, refresh my memory. I knew there was something that we did.
Well, you'll see it with, I was gonna wait till, you'll see it with the transfers. So
Let's go there. And then any questions on the financial update
No,
anymore?
I'm good. Yeah.
Michael C, you're
No,
good?
everything's good. Thank you.
Okay, okay, so let's go to those.
Sure. So the first piece of the transfers is obviously just for review. For the most part, they're pretty standard. There are quite a few of them, obviously, as we come towards year end.
Sure.
And the last one being kind of a bundled transfer, which is on the final page, as you can see up there, which is all within the Parks and Rec department, mostly the Recreation department. Just kind of evening out some of those other classes and programs and maintenances.
So just on the review, any questions on those for review only? If anybody had any questions on those. But do you want to update everybody on this Park and
Yes,
Rec
what I
issue?
wanted to bring up, but just briefly, and we could discuss a different one. So the program, a lot of people question, we're bringing in revenue on the programs. Why aren't we having more programs? Why aren't we expanding? Because there's a waiting list on a lot of our programs.
Right.
It's because the revenue goes to one section, we can't touch it. So they may make 50,000 on the program, but we can't touch that because the budget is now whole. They've spent their budget. So for them to expand, they have to come back every single time to a budget appropriation. So what can be done is you can set up what's called a self-sustaining fund, or however way you want to term it. It's a separate fund that you'd set up for recreation programs. And every time they need to expand, they just put their budget and their revenue. They have the ability to set up the budget right away, the revenue and expenditures,
Like a revolving fund.
like a revolving fund. So the self-sustaining would be able to expand. So if they want 10 more pickleballs,
Mm.
they can do it. and they can do it right away
Right.
because they just set the budget up because they're going to plan out how much that's going to cost and whatnot. Whereas they can't do that now.
Yeah.
So some of them actually went over because they did expand some of them, not realizing the revenue is not offsetting that expense. So to set up something like that gives them a complete, the complete ability to expand programs. The administration side, well, I could go into it later. date. I'm
Let's
going
do
into
this. I
inside.
think in September,
Yeah.
in the meeting, if we could have maybe Park and Rec here, let's go through a proposal. Is
Okay.
it a $500,000 fund? Is it $1 million fund? Is it a 10,000? I don't know what it is and what it would work, but I think conceptually, everybody gets, we're constraining these programs for a budget reason when we've
Right.
got people in town or on wait lists. It makes no sense.
Right.
So let's figure out how to fix that.
In this year, I believe we gave them we upped the amount of money for
We did.
programs for
We
exactly
definitely
that purpose.
We
So
definitely
we
did.
basically got them
Right.
set up for this year and then we'd figure out long-term how to.
But
make
that
it
was
work.
just a plug number.
That fixed it.
Right.
There's,
That's right.
there's
Yep.
a more.
We-
But wasn't
elegant
there
way to do it.
also a COVID limitation because people were concerned too many people in each program, or is that, did that
would,
not flush
yeah, we
out?
need the Park and Rec on that one. I
Like,
wouldn't know.
I
now,
remember
but
that being discussed. I
as
just
we-
don't know.
Back a year.
It's
Well,
kind of their
no,
hands
no,
are
it was
tied to be
even
able to open
in
program.
Christmas, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, you got that.
Yeah.
If we could, Tucker, we have that. We don't need it for August for our potential meeting. But September, pardon me? No, but we want to do that because we got to bring some flexibility to that.
Yeah, I
That's-
definitely,
that's
and
a-
other
that's a
towns have
good-
done it,
good
so
change.
it is a successful
Perfect.
program.
Do we need a motion to approve?
Not these, but
No.
there
Oh,
are some to approve.
Approval, yeah. So,
So this $157,500 in transfers also just between recreation departments is to approve.
Do you have the exact dollar amount so you can read it? Is it 157,500, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Even.
So move.
Okay, motion to move, move, Amy second, Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Michael, I heard him. Okay, opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It helps.
What else?
Um,
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
When will you have when are you done with this? Is it September or is it next month for the expense side?
I'm hoping next month, as you probably know, we were down one position we just filled.
Mhm.
Now we're down another
Okay.
position that I have to fill. So
Okay,
it's kind of revolving. So we're hoping right now to get it, everybody's jumping in right now to get it up.
All
So
right.
we hope within the
Okay.
next actually 3 weeks, we'll have
okay,
what we
Good.
have
right.
caught up in the departments. and
Okay.
everything.
That's
okay,
good.
all right, okay, great, thank you. Okay, I think this is Tucker, are you coming up? This is to do an update on ARPA, and then we have item 6. Item 7 is we have 2 items to consider for funding. So our question was where are we on ARPA? You know,
So
what have
I-
we received? What have we
And to a
committed? Yeah,
snapshot, hopefully you all have that in front of you, this
Mm.
document. This was basically our tracker to literally keep track of all of the items that have been approved thus far, and you'll see down the line, all the green X's, those are all items that have gone through the entire approval process, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Town Council. We have 2 items that are still, one of which you're going to be talking about tonight. Lauren Patterson's going to be joining us and present the partnership that we had with the New Canaan Community Foundation and the town players. And that is, that project is still being sort of reviewed and finalized. So that one's just in a holding pattern for now. So you'll see that we have fully approved $3,430,050. The pending is the 582 tonight, 582,600 plus the 250. And the total allocation was just shy of $6 million.
okay, so we've
We do have,
committed about 4 out of
Mhm.
6.
What's our time? How much longer do we have? on
we
the-
have until December 2024 to commit. We don't have to spend by then.
Yeah. We've got time.
And we do have, I've been keeping a list of, other items that will be, as Kevin mentioned, as part of his report. There'll be more coming to you in the next few weeks, starting with the Board of Selectmen, the subcommittee meets and vets them, and then you all get them, and then Town Council.
If this question's for another time, just beat me down, but there's a lot of what we do year in and year out, which is fine tuning projects at the end because there's a lot of money sloshing around that either wasn't paid or there's some overages or whatever. In an ARPA context, what happens to perhaps money that was never spent? Or are we way out on the edge of no one's ever gonna not spend? You know, what I mean?
Why would we not spend it?
Well, I'm just, if somebody says, look,
Something doesn't get
you
spent.
gave me the money to do this, I did X and there's,
I don't know.
$3,500 left. I'm just wondering.
No, that's the question is, there should be another column. It's approved. Pending, fair
Right.
enough, spent.
Well, some of these have not even been paid out yet.
Yeah.
So that maybe answers some of your question is that the NCTV 79, that was approved, that was one of the first rounds. But
Right.
we are still working with them to actually find the best solution to some of our Zoom meetings. So
So it's not spent. That's okay.
not spent yet.
That's zero.
Mhm.
That's okay. And it's really not relevant today, but a year and a half from now, it's going to be pretty relevant,
Yeah.
with
But I
this kind
think
of
you
stuff.
would redeploy it for an ARPA.
I would think
purpose, right?
so.
Yeah,
Right,
you
that's
you
what
have to
makes-
do that before the,
But we
Right,
have to
Right,
know
wouldn't-
before the
we're
end
just
of the
still
year to
sloshing back in the general
redeploy.
fund.
That's the
There would
key.
be
Yeah.
strings and timelines and deadlines.
Yeah.
and what.
okay.
Well, that's a fair point, though, given the fact that we have a claim to unlost revenues.
It could come.
It could come back to the general fund.
No.
I would argue that.
Yeah, all day long.
I argued
All day
that
long.
early, Kevin.
In some ways.
It gives you more flexibility.
Okay. Sorry for the digression.
No,
Question.
it's a good point, because if it's not spent.
Okay, so that's a status. That's,
Crude.
that's where we are. Okay, so we had two items. Is Lauren on?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
So this was approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
And so I think this board just wanted an update on what your proposal is so that we can take a vote.
Sure. And thank you all for having me. I presented briefly to the Board of Selectmen, but I thought I could just mention again that we partnered with the town going back to last summer of 2021 on a series of listening sessions with our nonprofit partners alongside local business. This was with TDAC and with the Chamber of Commerce. Heard some great ideas then from nonprofits and local businesses on some ideas for the ways to use ARPA dollars going forward that would better position our community or react to the impacts of the pandemic. Subsequently, we worked with the town to kind of flesh out what would an application process look like and led outreach to our nonprofits locally, both in town and locally in Fairfield County. And each year we work with about 80 to 100 local nonprofits. So we were happy to do that outreach and build off of those relationships. As a result, we received 33 grant applications in January of this year and built a committee of 13 that went deeper on each of those applications, vetted them as a committee, and also split into smaller groups to go deeper by issue area. They had follow-up conversations with those nonprofit organizations. They discussed in small groups and as a committee, and ultimately vetted these 22 organizations before you tonight for a variety of services. And there are some different grant ranges in there, largely based on the amounts that organizations requested, but some significant projects in there that we think will have a positive impact on individual community members, their health needs, their ability to connect with one another, economic development and arts projects in town, some behavioral health services. I think there's a great variety of really thoughtful and meaningful work in here. We've also continued to work with town. So there are a couple of applications which were really more appropriate for town to negotiate directly. So town is moving forward with a few of those. And then there were a small handful that we felt did not meet the criteria of ARPA dollars. And so we're proposed to decline funding at this point in time. So that's just a brief overview of the process. And I just wanted to be available to answer any questions.
Yeah, so questions for Lauren? And the committee's approved it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lauren presented
Yep.
to the
Mhm.
committee and,
Yeah.
I think the approach for the committee was, there was a sense that people wanted ARPA monies to be used, a part of it for the nonprofits. And we tasked a very competent group
Yeah.
to dig into this. And so, we didn't feel it was up to us to go line by line. We let the pros make the decisions. And, some of the smaller ones, we were scratching our heads like, why so little? Because that's all people asked for,
Sure.
Yeah.
which I thought was really made me feel good,
Special.
as opposed to saying,
True.
what? That's all they asked for. So that made me feel very good about it. So personally, but I think the entire committee really respected the work that was done and they spent a ton of time doing this. So we said, yes,
Okay.
makes sense.
It's about 10% of the total.
Do our funds go directly to the charities or do they go to the New Canaan Community Foundation who then sends them? Direct.
Directly to the charities.
Okay, thank you.
What about, how did we come up with the 582? Was it the community foundation that came to us with a ask of 582, or did we say we're going to give the community foundation 582?
No, Lauren, as in the community foundation, they set a application process in place and people asked for different groups asked for a certain amount of money and these guys vetted it and this is what they came down as recommending.
Other questions? Anyone?
No, I think it's been a good process, a
Yep.
great process. Thank you for doing.
It's a lot
it
of
all.
work. Thanks.
Yeah, Lauren.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
She's Louise.
Certainly,
Thank
Thank
you.
you for partnering with us and kudos to the town for making some significant investments in our nonprofit partners. They do incredibly important work and I think we're ahead of other towns and the ways that they're thinking about this work.
Agree.
Great job, Lauren.
Great job. Okay, if not, I need a motion to approve the 582. Chris Labrie, second.
Second.
Maria, all in favor? Aye. Sorry, Michael. Opposed? None? So moved. Michael, I saw your hand up there, but I thought you were voting early. I didn't realize you were seconding.
Either one, it's all good.
Awesome. Congratulations, Lauren. Thanks.
Thank you. Lauren.
Keep us
Thank you,
posted
Lauren.
if you need anything.
Thank you.
Okay, and Chief Prolakowski.
And Paul. And Paul.
Paul, you coming up? PF, Paul Foley? No?
This, what Chief Krolikowski is going to present to you tonight, that has not gone to the subcommittee yet, just because there was some question at the Board of Selectmen meeting as to what the source of funds would be for this. So we thought we would have him make his presentation and then talk about the actual funding if we thought that it would be
Okay.
appropriate for our.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So hopefully you got the memo that I put together,
Mhm.
rather concise request. Back in August, September last year, when the call came out for use of the ARPA funds, I submitted a request for 100,000 towards overtime to combat the
Mhm.
epidemic of stolen vehicles that we were seeing, 10,000 towards a fingerprint reader, and 5,000 towards a secure storage cabinet. Subsequently, there's been some back and forth, and recently, several weeks ago, Tucker asked us if we still needed that request. And given what Uvalde happened on May 24th, I believe, and 18 or so kids were killed there, tremendous amount of concern in our community about safety and security at our schools. Day after, we did enhance security at our schools, and they asked us to be there at drop off and pick up. And we love to do it as much as we can, but given staffing levels fluctuate so much, I thought it'd be smart for me to reframe that request and ask for 110,000 towards hiring an officer every school day to specifically patrol and check all our schools. They'll be able to interrupt things from happening. They'd be a quick response force. And it's just an added level of security towards all our schools. And the superintendent embraces this and he thinks it'll make things safer. He assures our parents. Certainly, the good news is everybody pretty much loves us in town. Not a lot of communities are like that, and they want us there. They want us in their schools. They want us protecting their children. So I thought it's a good initiative, relatively modest cost, and it'll enhance the level of security across the board for our schools. So 110 and the 115 is for that. So it's 180 school days of having a dedicated officer every day. And then the 5,000 is also that storage cabinet. The good news is we got 10,000 from the state. They provided a fingerprint scanner for us, so we don't need that item anymore.
Is the 110 though, it would be for ARPA would be a one-time
Yeah. What?
thing. If this is something we ought to be budgeting for, let's budget
Yeah.
for it.
Yes. So
Is
this
that
is
is that what you're thinking? You would,
You're right.
this would be in
Absolutely.
perpetuity now or
Yep.
something.
So that'd be for this fiscal year. So once school starts through the end of the
Okay.
school year, FY24, when we
Okay.
start building our budget up, we'll have a line in
Okay,
there
okay,
for this
Okay, that's the
specifically
plan.
to
I
cover
gotcha.
that. And so it's
Okay.
continuous and perpetual. This we're believing that it's going to be a great success.
Can I make a suggestion though for this board? We may just want to do a special appropriation.
Absolutely.
I think that may be both the fastest and easiest thing to do for that. I mean, there's always safety in the budget, right? So
Sure.
for this year and then do what you just said for following years.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a thought. I mean, other thoughts?
Logistically,
Yes.
I know it's hard to hire police
I was
officers.
thinking that, yeah.
And so you're talking about bringing one other person
Mhm.
on the force that will rotate, I guess, through the elementary schools, pretty much?
Yeah. There are a number of different models that we're thinking through operationally. One is to hire an officer every school day that would be dedicated towards patrolling all the schools, focusing on elementary because they don't have police officers there. Saks and the high school does.
Overtime.
And the
Oh,
private schools
overtime.
too. It's overtime. It's not hiring an officer,
Yeah.
extra officer. It's not adding to our complement. It's an overtime position.
Yep.
Okay,
so
that I
there's a-
would, I thought you were adding.
If that answered your
Permanently,
question, yes.
I think you meant it was putting overtime there, having the
That's right.
existing, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
For future years, wouldn't it make sense to actually add another head count as opposed to
No.
just having more overtime? And
Maybe
We could, but
Have to
You'll figure
traditionally,
that out.
Have to
you'd have to look
work
at
out the
the cost
numbers,
benefit
yeah.
analysis of that.
you'll figure that out. Yeah.
All right, that makes more sense to me because they're going, where are you going to find someone in 2 months?
It's
So,
a
yeah,
very tough hiring environment.
exactly.
It's not a one person
No, yeah.
FTE maybe, but there's multiple sites, so you have to be multiple. Okay, you'll figure all that out.
Yes, we
So,
will.
When you say special appropriation, it could just be the transfer. We had excess funds.
well, I'm just saying, if we want to transfer funds or do a special appropriation, we can just do that.
Sure.
And have that done, and you
Yeah,
want.
ARPA's funding is fine.
But why wouldn't we use ARPA? I mean, just.
Because, it's a one-time
But it's,
thing.
but it's sort of a trial. I mean, I assume it's gonna go well. Everyone's gonna love it and will want to do it, but why not get it up and running with ARPA money? I don't know, rather than add to a budget that's gonna have inflation impact.
Well, because it's a because ARPA is only going to be for one time.
Yeah.
You have to add to
That's
the budget.
true of pretty much all, the
Everything.
everything we're giving out. We're helping a charity for one time and they're gonna have to go and replace that whole.
It's a little mixed. There's assets, there are items. It's a good question, though. I
We
mean,
we did try to minimize funding, at least, I can't speak for
good
Community
question.
Foundation of anything that was an operating expense. We tried to
It's like
keep
the
it
Silver Hill.
discreet.
Mhm.
That- yeah,
That's
that-
that's a one.
Silver Hill is a one-time investment. We expect other towns to be in so that we would,
Yeah.
and then we're going to figure out how the community foundation is going to raise the money for us, to pay for it. We don't expect to come to the taxpayer.
To me, it seems like a good use of ARPA.
This is really an operating expense, so if we fund it from the general fund, the special appropriation, then it's an operating expense. And then it comes back to us next year as part of the budget. I think that's how it makes more sense than the ARPA allocation, which could be used for something more
Impact.
more permanent or something, or seed money. I mean, you could.
But this
kinda
is
say, okay,
seed money.
some
Yeah, this is.
But
Let me ask
seed
this
money.
question. Does this-
appropriation
Does this board
lines it
agree,
up better.
agree with the idea of supporting this? That's the first
Yes.
question. I think, so unanimous support that. I think we have to figure out which the best pot
That's
to come out
perfectly
of.
fine.
Either it's going to be a special appropriation, could be a transfer, could be ARPA. If everyone's okay with that, you need this in August.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Start of school year.
Yeah. We can keep talking about it, but I just wanted to make it clear. We have multiple ways of funding this, which we don't necessarily have to lock on tonight. We're sort of hearing it for the first time.
So should we vote to approve an
Let's
increase to the police budget of 100?
I think
No,
I have no
I would-
problem. Well, I would recommend we vote to approve the $115,000 funding for the initiatives as discussed, and then we need to sort out how we finance it. I think we can do that.
Yeah.
They were okay.
Is it 115 or 100?
Yeah, it's 110 for the officer and then 5 for that storage cabinet.
Yeah, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Amy?
Sure.
Also, if it is ARPA, which is, again, it can be fine, it has to go back to you. You all have to approve it before it comes to us. That's the process.
We're there, man.
Yeah.
You can
so-
certainly use the
And town
5 for
council.
the storage cabinet if you wanted to.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
wanna break
No,
it
no.
Let's get this thing going.
Let's do this. No, we all support the initiative, smart move, and we'll fund it. We'll figure out how to fund it. Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the $115,000 for police department initiatives?
School safety.
School safety, how we fund it, we will determine by the end of August.
And storage cabinet.
And storage cabinet. I said initiatives, but it's really the
Don't
two.
stuff going missing.
It's the overtime plus
Not good
plus
with
the
that.
cabinet.
This is the end of a very long series of almost 20 years of fighting for this, as you well know. So I am more than
Motion, so
thrilled
you,
to make
you,
the
you move,
motion.
okay, motion, I need a second.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
Second, Chris. Okay, all in favor of the appropriation? Aye. Opposed? None? Okay. So moved, and just let us sort out which way it goes. And what we could be a transfer. We've got excess funds and things like that. So good point. Excellent. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great idea. And are you staying for Joe's
Yeah, but I was gonna say.
number 8, baby? Building committee update. Where are you going?
Yeah.
Joe, you want to come up?
Walking away.
Presenter sit here.
You think you.
Oh,
where do I get
you're
this?
home early, right?
We get
Fully hurts the cause. Doctor, you have the slides? Can we
No.
check to see if
No,
Brian
we can
Humes
update.
and how about Stewart and Jabel?
I know.
All right, thank you.
Get the other August. I just like to have one meeting in August, not 3.
Right behind you.
So we asked for this just to get an update.
Think so.
Yes, not yet. I'll synchronize hand signals. All right. So hello, Board of Finance. I'm here to give you an update on some of the decisions we've made to lay out some possible next steps for town bodies to consider and to ask for some additional funding that will enable our architect to get to work.
Tucker, you gotta be watching. It signals.
All right, here we are.
Actually, you want to do that?
We're a deep and experienced team. Great town staff, industry experts, Jabel, extensive experience with numerous town building committees. Amy, Board of Finance, has been involved with so many of these buildings. Michael Chen, thank you, Michael. Paul Foley, Police Commissioner, Mike Morrow, Town Council, Penny, Board of Ed, and was head of the Saks Building Committee, and Paul Tully, an experienced builder. Advisor Stuart Sauerbini, who has logged in, let's face it, hundreds and hundreds of hours on town safety related projects, and who put together this presentation. So thank you, Stuart. We've had building assessment firms, architecture firms, cost estimators. We've been doing a lot in the last year and a half. Historical timeline. This project has been right up the flagpole for some time. I think any of you guys have been around town government for a long time, know how long this has been kicked around. So here we are in July of 2022. The choices. So we have been doing for the past year, this is what we've been doing for the last year and a half, trying to answer these questions. Where to put it? What will it look like? Who's going to do it? What will this new facility give us the best long-term bang for the buck? And what can we do to ensure our police department has some of the best trained officers and capabilities in the country? And I think going back to our joint meeting, I think there was, there was absolute unanimous consensus on that. Training is key. The experts can speak to it more than I can. And this is really what we're talking about for a lot of what we're talking about here going forward. First conclusion. As you know, the town looked at 14 locations, all failed for one reason or another. The recommendation, of course, is to keep it at its current location. I think that was hashed out at our last joint meeting. Next chart. Architect. This is new. There are 2 firms that basically do the lion's share of police and public safety buildings in the Northeast. Both are excellent firms in our view. We chose Jakunski Humes. Brian Humes is on Zoom and he'll be speaking a little bit later. Both firms are excellent, and it was a pleasure and a privilege to deal with both of them. In the end, we went with Jakunski Humes. Building history, special purpose. To continue using the current police building site, we have to deal with the obvious. It's nearly a 100-year-old school building that was repurposed as a police station 40 years ago. Will it stand up to the next 50 plus years? No. Police buildings are a double.
Double.
Oh, I like raising my arm. I think actually, it's a total power thing. It's a total power thing. I love this. Next slide. No, I'm gonna flip it. All right, no, don't really. No. Go back to the other one. I screwed up the whole thing.
Keep going.
All right, we'll get back.
We'll get
So-
to this slide eventually.
You'll get there. So police buildings need to be better than your average town building, right? Ours is deemed an essential building as defined by state and federal regulations. It must remain functioning during any type of emergency, earthquake, hurricane, power outage, et cetera. It's not like, building a town hall, and I'll do a comparison to town hall in a little bit. So what can we do? Next slide, committee recommendation.
Yes.
There we go. Retain the historic structure. Basically gut the insides and renovate as new. We talked about this at the joint meeting. We're going to add a little caveat to it a little later on in this presentation, but I think this is what between the location and the fact that this building, after it's been poked and prodded by numerous experts, can stand the test of time going forward. We'll go into some of that poking and prodding. So the next slide, Huffman Building. They did an assessment of the outside envelope and 26-page report. They detailed the things that are wrong with it, certainly. But in their humble opinion, the consensus is that this building can and will be serviceable for the next 50 years with recommended repairs, and your typical maintenance and renovate as new is very, very feasible going forward. It really isn't a borderline case. It's quite black and white. This building has great bones and can stand up to this. The next chart is simply highlights some of the details of that report. And there's more ugly pictures of how the bath, some of the brick is, in the backup materials. But, just suffice it to say that they did a very thorough assessment, and we as a building committee and our architect, Brad Humes, feels very, very comfortable in renovating this building as new. We also had a company come in, Fussell O'Neill, looking at hazardous materials, which whenever you renovate an old building is something that always comes up. And they sort of said, well, they did say that after their testing, they recommend maybe $75,000 was their number of abatement. I mean, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, right? So, hey, you can always be surprised. There's no doubt about that. But the experts' number is $75,000, and that's pretty good. This
It's probably because it was abated before. Well,
yes, exactly right. This has been poking and prodding for a long time. There's a lot of this was done in the 80s, I'm sure. So next slide. To completely vacate the building during the renovation. Again, this was decided at the joint committee as well, or the joint meeting as well, that you can come up with a way to maybe keep them in, especially if you don't add an addition in the back. But it's what are you really getting, especially with lead times and getting materials and things like that. It was the committee's view that we should vacate the building and just avoid all of those potential headaches. So that was our recommendation for that. And now we're on to the addition. So let's talk about why we think tearing down the addition at the back of the building and replacing it with a new purposely designed addition that will house most of the critical safety elements of a police station, the cells, the sally port, prisoner processing, improved traffic flow, is a good idea. So that's what it looks like. That's the addition we're talking about. We believe, and our architect believes, and the building committee believes that this should be torn down and a new addition put on the back. And we'll have Leon and the architect talk to some of the details of that. So let's compare this with, let's say, a town hall solution, because we're going to get to the numbers soon and they're high. Okay. And let's look at it. We've looked at it from a bottoms up, and I'll explain the bottoms up numbers, but let's look at it also from a top down perspective. So let's call this the town hall solution for the police building, right? Just to say what we're talking about. It's basically a 32,000 square foot building. The new addition is going to be 20%, 25% of the 25% of the new building. So that's really what we're talking about. Town hall is a 35,000 square foot building with about 10,000 square foot new. So about a third is new. And thank you, Amy, for having me look this up. So when town hall was built, 2013 to 15, let's call it that. So 2013 to 2015, the Turner non-residential construction index. So Turner Construction puts out, publishes an index every quarter of what buildings cost, non-residential. So in the second quarter of 2014, I took the midpoint. Second quarter 2014, that index was 896. Today, the second quarter 2022, that index is 1283. That's a 43% increase. So construction costs overall for non-housing has gone up 43% since the second quarter of 2014. So if you look at what town hall cost, construction, 13 million, total cost, 18 million. This was an $18 million project, which came in under budget and on time, I believe. And added that same 43% to it. So 18 million times 43%, you're about 26 million. So to do this today, presumably would be about $26 million. Just to get a sense of how much things
Bill,
have gone up.
say that number again.
Yeah.
What was
So-
the original at the town hall and it ended up
13
at what?
Well, 13 million construction, 18 million total project, including soft costs and everything else.
Right.
Okay, so
Add 46% to 18 because it
No.
already was
Yeah.
up something.
I added 43%
But it was up something.
to the 18 million. Yeah, so I'm talking, from the second quarter of 14 to what that would be today. And I chose the midpoint of the construction process. And you can look at it a couple of different ways, right? You could add the 43% to the 13 million, and then for soft costs, use a different number as well. Maybe that'll get you to 25 million,
So what
know,
was your
something-
number for this building?
25.75 million.
So I got, what's the size again? Give me the square feet. This whole
35,000.
thing,
Oh,
including the addition,
town, police?
Yeah.
Police is 32,000
including the addition?
It's
30,400.
with the addition,
We have more
but the
addition.
proposed or with the,
Proposed.
yeah, proposed will actually be a little less, right? Than what it currently is, because the new addition is going to be a little smaller than what we're tearing down.
It's 32.
Call it 32.
This final product with an addition is 32.
Yes.
That's the question. Okay,
Yes.
all right. And what were all those other options that we looked at? They were all
Yeah.
about 32?
We looked at renovate as new, which is and just renovate everything.
Yeah.
And that number is,
I'm just really trying to understand, did the building get bigger?
no,
Did not.
No.
And since we talked about it.
No, the needs assessment was for a 25,000 square foot building.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Needs,
understand.
right? And we estimated a new building, a freestanding
yes.
piece of land was 22
Yeah,
million.
so if we could have found a place to put a new building, it would have been smaller
That's it.
than what, yes, than what
Yeah.
we have here.
Yeah.
But it's a clean break to tear down the addition. We really can't touch the original envelope without some.
So 32,000 square feet is what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think what happened is this was kind of as, a lot of people did input in, the joint meetings and folks were very concerned about, people did like the look of the building. They also wanted the police to have what they needed. We wanted to
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of do it once and do it
Yeah.
right. So the initial work that we had Brian Humes look at was kind of, I don't want to say on the cheap, but it was like, what can you do exactly with this building in this space? And then as people talked about it, this board thought of, well, maybe we should be thinking this more like town hall. We have the old and the new. In the back of it's kind of a disaster and not working very well. So we went back to the architects and said, took some of the constraints off them.
Mhm.
And I think what came forward was a plan that I think, especially all you guys in the police, were really excited about how the building now would function. Is that fair to say, Paul? And
Yeah, because doing it on the cheap was exactly, as you said, it would be doing it on the cheap.
well,
and it
frugally,
wouldn't- and it
frugally,
wouldn't
yes. Yeah.
Have it wouldn't comply to the needs that we're going to have going forward as a town or a police department for the next 30, 40 years. So tearing off the back, starting sort of anew there, gives us a new footprint to do all the
agree
things that
with
we
that,
need,
yeah.
the police department needs to perform the functions as a professional force.
Well, the only point is you change the plan. The plan is renovate for new plus.
Yeah, we call it the town hall approach.
Yes.
And
Keep
give
the
me
front
the
and
total cost again, dollars?
Of the town hall approach?
I don't know that I love
No,
that.
no.
I might want to drop that analogy.
We will. Okay.
And I'll challenge the under budget.
Okay. We'll go to chart 21, cost compare, we'll go to that. That's the next one, We'll get back to why it's, okay, so these are the charts talking about why we think it's better. But if you want to, get the numbers first and then hear why it's
I
better.
understand the.
Yep, one more,
The dollar amount again.
one more. Yep, there we go. So A is renovate is new, don't tear down anything, don't build anything new.
Yep.
Option B is basically tear down 25% of the building and add back 25% building new to house most of the important safety things. Sally port, cells, prisoner processing, things like that, improve traffic flow.
I can read those numbers.
Yeah.
Can read.
Yeah.
What is A?
Paul.
A is just renovate.
What is the dollar number?
Oh,
22 for A.
22.5.
And
well, that's the high. So call it 20.3
3.3.
to 22.6.
And then the B,
25.6 to 28.5.
Okay.
So it's basically at the midpoint about a $5.5 million difference.
But in our budget that
22,
we
27.
discussed in March, we were talking about 17,500,000.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That was a placeholder from when?
from
When?
3 months ago.
the
No, no,
process.
The placeholder.
The
was in
whole
there for
process
years
from the
ago,
very beginning, yeah.
Right?
No, no, it was in there 10, then it grew to 50, 15.
Our numbers.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember it in 13, 14, so.
Well, that's why I
it's a
brought
long
up sort of the
time.
top-down
Coming.
analysis as well,
Yeah, but
to
that's
show you that
17.5,
basically,
5
since,
placeholder.
in the last
5 years.
8
5
years,
years.
prices have gone up 43%. And I think,
Sorry.
Okay.
Chris.
Yeah,
you're
the
saying it was
17.5 was
17.5, that was 5 years ago.
That's
You go
5
up
years ago.
43%.
No, it wasn't 5 years ago. It was in the budget that we discussed in March.
It was
17.5.
also part, excuse me, but it's also, that placeholder was put in 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was a placeholder.
Not at, Paul, honestly, not at that number, but we intentionally put a number as a placeholder below what we thought it would be, because we certainly don't want to put a number higher.
That's right. I
So it
remember
was, we
that.
weren't really sure, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think the estimates right now are rough because the plans are very rough.
right,
So, and there's big construction contingencies built in, because I think there's a lot of, I don't know, because you don't have drawings.
right, we don't have a real number until we have drawings, and that'll be one of the asks to get our architects started.
Yeah.
So we can give you a real number. And of course, the other big question will be, what will building costs be in February-ish when this goes out to bid? There isn't anyone in the industry that won't tell you that right now it's kind of peak costs. And we're assuming it's going up from here, 5% by February. No one knows what costs will be in
I think they're gonna
February.
be about 25% less.
And they could, you can make that,
Taking that?
yeah, you can make that case, man. You can make that case.
I don't know what you use for lumber costs, but I'll
Yeah.
tell you, they're 50% less than they were in February.
Mhm.
Okay,
And you can hedge this thing.
so that's really
The
the ask.
library did.
The
so
ask
we
is
know
an
that.
architect and details to get this a sharper pencil on here.
Yes.
But I have a question with respect to the architect. There was a point when this was being debated as to sites
Yes.
about the desirability of getting a number of architectural firms to expressed an interest on this, and at the beginning of this discussion, you mentioned only two.
Right.
So was there an effort to reach out to other firms and to get opinions from other architects, or did you?
I'd say we focused on those two.
They're the preeminent two in the New England.
Yeah.
They do all the public safety buildings.
We gave them both plenty of open road to show us what they thought, wanted to do for us. So we had both firms under small contracts working for us for a year or so. We were very happy with the service both of them provided.
We also visited a number of their projects. So we went to Bethel and Newtown, Darien, Greenwich, and other places.
And you were happy with what you saw?
Yeah.
No building's perfect,
Building's
and
perfect. We saw where there were problems in other buildings.
Yeah.
And that we wouldn't want those problems to happen here. So it did help educate us on both the architectural firms.
Yeah. And maybe you'll get to
Sorry,
this.
Let me just follow. If we
Yeah.
did not find a third one in the area,
Yeah, true. Okay.
if had there been a third, we would have looked at it.
I don't know if you're going to get to this, but there was another issue that came up while alternate sites were being considered, and this was having to do with the shoring up of the external shell of the building, and there was some concern about the fact that the original structure had essentially a basement floor that had been covered up, and then this was a source of potential weakness to the building. So
Yes.
maybe you're going to address this.
Well, that was in one of the Hoffman charts, and it's more is in the backup. But yes, that is the number, that they believe was the number one issue. Joe can talk to this certainly better than I can, right? That when they converted it, they added fill above it to sort of do away with the stairway leading up to it. And that's where a lot of the water, should have shown my Philadelphia accent there, was the damage was coming through. But there are.
We did some exploratory work.
Bill,
We did some
Chris, this is Jim Bell. Let me chime in here. Well, if you had a chance to look at that big first picture that got flashed by, there were windows along the front of the building. And when they remodeled in 1980, they bricked up the windows and piled dirt up against it. I'm giving the simple answer. The experts all said, if you pull back all the dirt that was put there, properly seal that and waterproof as it should have been done in 1980, you will not have water in the basement.
Okay, so that is the solution to that.
Yes.
Is to expose.
Yes, there's a
that-
very good engineering solution that will fix that.
All right.
Or people are confident that will fix it.
Chris, I agree, because we kept saying, are you sure? Are you? So I
Yeah, because that
completely,
was thrown out, over and over again as to why we should abandon the site.
well, no, it was thrown out as an issue that there's a problem with
Cost
the water.
cost to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but not to throw out the site, but there was a building, there is because we've asked a lot, that's a fix. Not like a patch, a fix.
Yes, okay.
How many people are in there?
Exactly.
During the day, just during day?
It could be 15 to 18 a day, rotating
how many
during
are
the
here?
day.
40?
So for 40 people, we spent 18,450,000 each. We want to spend 1.9 million per person for 15.
Police departments are really expensive. They are $800 a square
It's
foot.
4 times more.
Well,
It's
but
just, you want to use the town hall model on me.
No, they're very.
Cost per person.
$6.7 million. I rounded to 7.
Do it that way.
I'm having a little fun. So I just am trying to understand though that, it was 17 million, went to 21.
Yeah.
Is at 28. That's up 20% twice since we started this conversation. We were all mentally thinking the teens, and now we're almost at 30. So you can understand a little of the sticker shock. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, it should
Appropriate.
come as a big surprise though, that, this building would cost that much. Look how much libraries cost. And that's
That's
36,000 square foot building. So
Yep.
let's not fall off our chairs here.
Mm.
That's what municipal buildings cost.
Well, especially police department, a very specialized building,
No.
very expensive building.
Specialize it, And
Yeah.
if you ever have to do the
Yeah.
same thing for the fire department,
Yeah.
that would cost you even more.
And no
So-
pistol range.
Well, we should talk about that.
Well, that was the next, yeah.
Well, I guess maybe one way to put that in context is so, and maybe you'll get to this, but so the project that you leave this meeting with, some consensus around, and you're going to try to go out and price. Is it fair to say then you're done? That's it? We're not going to, in a couple of years, hear that, oh, now we have the solar project for the police department. Oh, done. Is that a number that gets you a building that is 40, 50 years? And, I think that would be
Yeah, I think so.
okay.
Yes. I mean,
The
it will
front
be a
step will be
25% new building.
But I think,
You can provide
to
for
be
the
fair,
solar right up.
Oh,
front.
that's my point.
We are putting solar on this one also.
but I think to be fair, with this building, correct me if I'm wrong, there are some parts of the building, for instance, the roof, okay, that the main part of the roof is fine. Okay, because it's been done somewhat recently, will we have to in 15 years redo that part of the roof?
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
Okay, but no, just,
That's
it's
right,
not,
that's
because it's
right.
not brand
That's right.
spanking new,
That's right.
but.
Yeah, yeah.
This
but
is
I
the
get-
renew. You're gonna have those kinds of legacy things that will come up.
But look at town hall, we're spending money for the steps to the town hall.
We're still
And it's going
spending
to-
money.
So,
on the town.
Under budget though, according to.
I do think, I think we're trying in it to be expeditious in time and
Yeah,
I missed the meeting when we went through the cost and these guys told me this and I about fall off my chair. But then there is something about putting it in perspective, okay, in terms of, buildings are expensive. We do them periodically. They're lumpy and they're big hits. But I think in terms of, I don't think it's unfair to look at it in context of the town hall because it's a similar type project. You're taking an older building, you're renovating it, you're adding an addition so that it works and the old works with the new.
Yeah.
And I think what the committee, as it got into it, just saying, all right, yeah, we could do it kind of frugally, but maybe that's not the best idea. And we heard that from everybody saying, let's do it right. And I think also and Bill's not getting to, but the plan that most recently came up, the most recent plan, people were really excited about how it served the needs and everything from traffic flow, parking, solar stuff. So it's.
Are you gonna have
an
Brian's,
excellent
are you gonna have?
Yes,
Brian's-
Brian is prepared to talk about that and Leon as well.
Yeah.
So we skipped ahead the cost, but we can go back to why we think the incremental, really, it's 5.5 million, and just say what that incremental ask is for 25% new building that houses all the most important safety features and why that we're excited about that. So Leon, do you want to go first and then we'll have Brian talk it?
When you say you're going to build on the back of the building, destroy the old annex that's in the back. That wall that has, that has all the old windows, is that coming down too? And you're building, so you're gonna use the front shell and then build back?
That sounds like a question for Brian. Maybe we'll have Brian go for any, Leon. Is that all right? Brian, are you out there?
I am, Bill. Thank you. And I did hear the question, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
We are going to take the front building and maintain that, renovate it. We are going to do some structural revisions to the front building, but what we're basically doing is put a new addition on the back of the existing building.
Town hall solution.
What about, are there any green architecture features incorporated into the new building?
There will be.
Yes.
Yes.
Solar, for sure.
We have solar, but we also have better energy efficiency because we're taking off of an addition that was built prior to the current energy codes. So we are able to build back better than what's there and more efficient.
One of the interesting points is that all of the windows will be replaced with architectural windows that are better suited for environmental control and match the original architecture.
Tucker, can you go to the next slide? It's actually in Brian's own words, some of the 5 points that, yes. Brian?
Thanks, Bill. I was asked by the committee because it was a $5+ million delta in the two schemes that I put together, they asked me, what are you gaining? What are the things that are worth the $5 million ask? And I did put together 5 items. They're not in any specific order, but they are significant over the first plan that we put together utilizing the existing building. The first item that I pointed out was improved site circulation. We are able to now reconfigure the site, reconfigure some circulation patterns on the site, and this would enhance both police and EMS, in my opinion. So there's a benefit to both occupants on the site. This is being looked at by the police department and evaluated further, but it gives us an opportunity there to look at the site in a different way, because the addition that we're putting on is actually a little smaller in dimension than what's there currently. So it gives us some more site circulation options. The second is obviously Sallyport and storage bays. The current building has 1 Sallyport bay. It's undersized for 2 vehicles. It's only sized for 1. It has limitations on height. And by building new in the back, I can now put a Sallyport that is properly sized for not just police vehicles, but ambulances, emergency vehicles. If they need it for transport vehicles, you need a higher bay dimension and a higher overhead door dimension. With the revised scheme, I was able to incorporate 5 bays into the plan for storage and for Sallyport use. So that's, right now they have 3 bays, 1 for Sallyport and 2 for storage. With the enhanced plan, I can get more bays and get a total of 5 bays. The third item is adjacency of police functions. The police are forced into doing things a certain way, and adjacency is important. But if I am able to put a new addition on the back, I can now make a purpose-built addition and improve the adjacencies of police functions. I can put patrol functions next to patrol functions. I can put evidence next to evidence. I can put Sallyports next to prisoner processing. I can just make it a much more functional flow and efficiency for the police department. Properly sized and efficient prisoner processing is also key, because if I'm looking at accidents or officer safety and accidents primarily happen in areas of prisoner processing, prisoner holding, or prisoner transport. Officer safety for me is paramount. We have to look at a facility that provides the greatest amount of safety for the officers. And a properly sized and efficient prisoner processing area is in the new addition that's being planned. It does improve officer safety, and that's something that I'm excited about for the department. Energy efficiency was brought up. It will be more energy efficient to build a building with energy efficiency in its envelope. We can't just add insulation in areas of the addition that are currently there now, because if I add insulation, I have to then improve structural capacity, especially in roof loading, snow loading. So if I design a new addition that can accommodate more insulation and accommodate the structural requirements of that, you get a more energy efficient building. I can also accommodate solar and new technologies into that addition that we're looking at in the back of the building. So in no specific order, I say those are 5 reasons that the ask is relevant and significant.
Okay, so I guess for this group of processing all this, we need to know next step. Sounds like get some funding for architects.
Yes.
I don't know what we've approved, if anything.
We have $400,000 left.
That's what's left.
3 or 4, yeah.
300.
And what are you looking for that? Does that cover it?
We're looking for another 1 to get us to construction drawings.
Okay.
Before February. In other words, now or?
Now, so that we have
All
construction
now?
drawings in February, right? So to get Brian working so that we can get the project designed and out to bid by late winter and be able to start construction probably late spring
And you need the one, you have 300 now, you need the one in September? August?
What do you think?
You need 1.2
1, 2?
plus 300,000 for 1.5.
Okay, so 1, 2, not 1, 1.
We need it by September for sure, but plan to start getting ready to spend it now.
Right. Okay. And Amy and Michael Chen, you're supportive of certainly taking this step. Sounds like this is the right path.
Yeah.
Understand the reasons for the change.
Yep.
Yep.
And, hopefully with, right now, the cost estimating is pretty hard on this because it's kind of rough. Jim chime in on this, right? So, and I think Jim reflected that people are putting big contingencies in because who the heck knows what's going on with construction. So hopefully when you get something that is, really plans that someone could do bidding off of, people are hopeful that the numbers will look more attractive. Is that fair, Jim?
That is correct. That's my view.
So I will say I agree exactly what Amy said with the one caveat. We have a lot of contingency here, but in the construction business, over the last 6 months, costs have gone skyrocketed, supply is harder. So I just be cautious, assuming that we're going to have savings from these costs on the other hand as well. So
I
I
agree,
would say,
Michael.
it's too high either.
Yeah, I agree, Michael.
Well, we
Right.
can't, we don't know.
We don't
We'll
know.
have to,
We
we
don't
get,
know.
we
That's what I'm
have to
saying.
get the
So-
job done to the point where we can have some real numbers. I get,
Right, right. We
that's
don't know,
we
but
progress.
it could be this high, is what I'm saying as well.
Okay. Well, I intentionally, put in here, we can, I wasn't planning on a vote tonight. I was really asking for an update on this 1.5. If that's the ask, we didn't notice an amount like that.
Do you contemplate going to the town council next week as well?
We can.
You should.
We
You should.
Yeah, everybody needs to.
Was that Wednesday?
I think you need to give them an update.
Wednesday?
Yep.
The 20th. Okay. All right, we'll need a request for funding with an amount and some specificity. So that we can have for our August meeting, which works for you guys, I think. I just heard.
One more question that you didn't get to the Force Training Center. Is there any chance to put that with the addition, have it on site? I mean, I know you've got a placeholder and I read the presentation, but it just strikes me that it'd be awful nice if you could just.
It'd be
wrap
nice
in
to
one
put it
big-
back there.
One big bow.
And, we were able to find a way to sort of say jam it in there. But you make a lot of other compromises to do that. And you also then have a neighbor issue where
The neighbor issue on a standalone, in my opinion.
Yes.
Even more so.
No, no, depending upon where the
Depends
location is.
Depends.
Well,
Yeah. But on the other hand, there's a group home on the property. We have 5 activities going on that property and we really can't, it's a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
So.
It's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
To squeeze it in there, it just wouldn't meet all our needs for the
Sounds right.
cost.
Yeah.
So it's not logical. It's logical to find a standable location where we build a proper facility for the stated costs.
As one example, as Brian mentioned, we could probably come up with enough bunkering and equipment so that people would hear a very faint
Right.
gunshot. But the equipment that you would require to muffle that would be going
I think we just
almost
spent-
constantly.
I think we just spent it.
But the
Can-
thought is, Bobby, that it wouldn't be just a 2-lane training center that.
Right, you'd be able to
that
have
training
vehicles.
centers today require you to be larger, be able to bring
Yeah.
a car in.
I was just thinking from
Yeah.
a practical standpoint, because it's
I
gonna be
agree.
hard to
Yes.
come back asking for another. I mean, I support it, but
Well,
I can, there's gonna be a
Also-
little exhaustion after.
we're working on a plan for a location and but a facility that hopefully would have 2 or 3 or 4 partners, other towns that
Right.
need.
At least.
Which is why it's,
That's
there's a lot of balls moving forward because there's a lot of other municipalities involved.
That's the play.
Right, Kevin and Leon are
Yeah.
talking to plenty of people. And hopefully some kind of consensus, win-win for everyone can
I
be.
think that's the
can be
play.
met.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Can you share with us, especially with this contractor, what the comparable costs in other towns our size for their police departments? And if not comparable, what were they missing that you've included so that we know we've
Mhm.
got everything?
Mhm.
You have that kind of information?
Darien is 37,000 square feet, but they include a range
Mhm.
in the, right?
Yeah, that they don't really use because
Just
it's,
for pistol.
But it's
Yeah.
37,000
Yeah.
square feet. They're the largest around for a small town.
yeah.
And how long ago was that?
7 years ago, 8 years
More
ago,
than that.
10 years ago. now.
14.
Yeah.
Brian, when was that, Darien? Do you remember?
I don't, Bill, I don't have the exact date, about 10 years ago.
Now, Wilton has gotten approval with their town vote for a $16.7 million
Yeah,
building
$17 million.
on their campus. They're a smaller force, that's much smaller, but they are really compromising to fit it in.
They have the land too to build.
They- Yeah.
One question,
Hmm.
we haven't talked about the cost to vacate. So
Mhm.
I think we all agree that's the right answer. You said it and originally, chief. I mean, that's the play. But we were looking for ways to minimize that with available space and so forth. And are we still on that track?
Well, the 39 Locust building will work for all the police. And we have the opportunity, the Board of Ed would have been in there for 2 more years anyway.
Mhm.
The landlord would like a one tenant to
Sure.
and the rent is relatively
Yeah.
attractive.
Mhm.
So I think we
That's an option.
got to lock that up once we know we have a project.
But the estimates assume expense associated. with
That's
the
that's in the budget.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's not an additional expense.
That's right.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Just,
Okay.
it's in,
Is
okay?
it $1 million?
A million and a half.
Yeah.
$1.5 million,
It's
or
about
$1 million, or $2 million?
2 million.
2 million. Okay, that's. a
It-
lot
It's
of
not another
Yeah.
surprise.
Is there $1 million option for that? That's a lot of money. I mean, come on. I mean, that's not insignificant. Okay. All right. I hate to be the guy raining on the parade, but I mean, you know, we support it. We are where we are. We've got to do what we have to do. By the way, we've kicked the can, we get it. I mean, understand it.
Long
So
time.
let's be serious. But
But I agree with you. And when we're in these, we really will drill down.
yeah,
I
that's
agree with you
the
completely.
that's the
Yeah,
question.
it's-
What can we do to
it's-
keep this?
yeah.
We can't approve,
It's
Cost
important,
down.
it's expensive, but we have to be smart about it.
Yes,
w-
absolutely.
But what's not in here, the relocation is covered, but what's not covered is the training facility.
Correct.
that's out.
Yes.
So
Is
really,
what?
it
We
really
hope
went
to
up.
get that done where it's not going to be a $3 million or $4 million facility for us. It's going to be a shared facility with other towns.
Yes,
So
so it was, we debated it, as you can imagine, what number to hold in there as a holding number. And you did
You did
it
the right
was just
thing.
too wide a range.
Yeah,
We didn't want to
yes,
put something in print, necessarily and have people, latch onto it because depending on who we partner with, where it's going to be, it could be it's too wide a range.
And why is Darien not using their facility, their pistol range?
Because it's only pistol, so they need to qualify rifle and it's not rifle distance.
Mhm.
And it's also placed in a way that it causes noise for offices that are interior, so they can't use it.
Lord,
It doesn't work so
efficiently.
well.
how did
Yes.
that?
It's
end up?
actually, yeah,
There's a lesson of squeezing something in.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
true.
lesson of
True.
thinking
They've got a
through,
big
yeah.
island to use now, so.
Yeah.
But they also put it on the second floor, so they don't really want people like us coming through, tracing through their
That's right.
building.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. Okay.
Whereas if you have a separate facility over here someplace.
it's easier to share.
It's easier to share. Other
Yes.
departments can come in and go.
Right.
and say,
Yeah.
"See,
Okay.
Because when you think about, things that make all the kind of sense for regionalization, if you will, police training centers is one of them.
So we will
That's
do
about it.
2 things. We'll,
Diesel garage.
Yeah.
so
Too much regionalization.
can I get a request? I'll get a request. I need a funding request for the amount of money for us to move in August.
Mhm.
All right,
Need a
for
motion?
architecture.
I make a motion.
Yeah, no, you can't. We didn't notice it. We literally can't move any money today. We don't have it in our agenda. So it's not something that we can do. But we know we need to do that. So get us the request for the funding, then we'll do that vote in August for you. You guys, so that'll take you through where you need to get to. Then we come back and have the real conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Bob taking the under on this, on the rates will be down, lumber will be free. It'll be crazy.
It's a head fake.
It'll be crazy.
Copper's gone
All
down.
right,
We'll see
all
if
right.
it goes
Bob's
back
probably
up.
right.
People bidding for it.
No, I could bet.
You will get contractors.
Just save on wood, you pay for money.
So we will have a solid estimate, play it forward, February,
That may be a little aggressive. Spring, early spring.
February, March.
Mhm.
You want to put a shovel in the ground in,
June?
Major.
June, July.
and construction lasts
18, 24 months.
Yeah.
So
That's a long
till the end of 24.
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a long time.
And Chief, the police will be able to operate at a 39 locus without any problems?
Are you,
Absolutely.
you're okay with that?
Yeah, it's actually a good fit. It's gonna work well.
Should we just use that and skip this over?
Pretty good track.
All in favor? All right. All right, fair enough. Okay, anything else on this team? I tried.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk in August.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and our last item of the evening, just an update on the construction loan agreement and where are we on it? How are we progressing? I would say, I had Tom and Chris to give the update. I don't know.
I can jump in if you want. We made good progress on a set of papers that went off to the library. We got the library's response last Thursday. The comments were mercifully light, I would say. There's a couple of issues lingering there. There's some issues that, some points that need to be filled in, but at the end of the day, these documents reflect what was in the PPA, right, for the grant, which was, remember, it's not really a construction loan. It's a line of credit that is meant to bridge timing differences in their collection of the pledges that were attributable to the capital campaign for these improvements. And the timing of those collections versus the timing of the construction, right? Trying to put those things through. So documents reflect a little bit of a hybrid where, we have some information rights and some other step-in rights with respect to the construction, but really what we're getting is a pledge or a collateral assignment of the pledges from that capital campaign. We're getting an assignment of the bank account into which all of those pledges are paid. It's a commitment amount. Remember, it was originally cast as being a third of the total construction amount, which was then later guesstimated to be about 10 million. That number will now reflect a commitment amount not to exceed 7 million, and it's not anticipated they'd use all of it. It has a 2-year commitment period. They can't draw down after 24 months. It has, remember the pricing was 25 bips over our cost of funding. What else? So it has, the difference between a grant and a loan isn't just you have to repay a loan. It also is, there's a series of provisions that affect the, for example, there's various funding stops and representations they have to make. If they can't make them, we don't have an obligation to fund. That doesn't mean it automatically cuts off the funding. We can sit there, we can talk to them, bring them to the table and continue to move the project along, but it has all the hallmarks of the loan. What else? I'm trying to think. So the amortization still needs to be sorted out. Remember, it was a 10-year loan, right? We put some placeholders in and we put some proposals into the drafts that went to the library. I don't think I saw a specific response, so that needs to get ironed out. So I think, subject to anything Chris or Kevin want to add, I suspect that we will hear back from the library about the various ways in which we would seek to address the few comments that we received. We'll fill in some of these items that need to be completed and probably would be in a position to say these things are done and accepted, within a week or two. I wouldn't have thought it takes more than that to get that done.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of, following this timeline, the issue would be, could we move it so that it would go to the next town council meeting? But that's only a week away. And the document isn't a week away.
Okay.
It's more than a week away. There were some comments that Tom and I had made to the documents that we have to make absolutely sure got in there, because they do address things like repayment, some of the other issues. And we were surprised that the library did not pick up on those when they gave their comments back. So we're going to have to make sure those get nailed down. And I would think that this board would want to see a final set of complete documents. So there are 4 documents involved there. We want to see the final version, and we want to know from the participants, the library and the town, that everybody is, these are the final documents, subject only to the passage of a funding resolution and a bonding proposal by this board. At which point then everybody will sign the papers. Well, has to go to town council, at which point everybody signs the papers. So, we're a
Hey,
little
Chris, when
reluctant-
do they need the money?
Yeah, I was just
That's-
thinking that.
First question.
Now till.
We heard October. Is it still October?
Bob Bubman came into the Board of Selectmen this morning.
What do you say?
Board of Selectmen approved the draft agreement to
Yep.
pass it on to you.
Yep, okay.
And it's done in my view, and the attorneys have agreed. You didn't
Good.
read the email from this afternoon. So
Well, we did.
But what did Bob say?
Bob said January.
Okay, so they don't need the money till January.
Yeah.
So we're,
Time.
let's not kill ourselves here. We've always wanted to be in advance of when they need it.
Right.
And the need was October, if you remember. We wanted to get this done kind of July timeframe to make sure that was all done and dusted. So
Yeah.
we can certainly have this on, if we're gonna have an August virtual call, we can add that at the
Yeah.
time. Is that fair?
It should be ready for August.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all but done.
Okay, all right,
You
okay.
know,
I think
I think,
we-
right.
There's no
And-
pressure. Get it right. Get it perfect.
The
There's no
other
reason not to
point
be
that's
perfect.
worth making, just because I know it's hard for committee members, I know I suffer from this and trying to re-immerse myself into issues that, thankfully just blow out of my head sometimes, but so this particular
funny.
loan agreement relates to the funds that we're providing with respect to the new building only. So the
Yes.
legacy
Mhm.
building itself will require a separate arrangement, which I think there's already a framework that's been agreed to, but but for these sets of papers, in very good shape.
Yeah, I mean, we
You know,
could, we
when
should be able to clone the legacy, some kind of legacy agreement off this one. So if we get this one right, it's fine. I would think the next steps is Tom and I need to get town's attorney, make sure all the little pieces are buttoned up.
Yeah.
And that the library agrees with all the buttoning up. And then, as Kevin said, we're essentially there. So August is entirely.
Okay, let's not try to have a special
So
meeting
we're not-
before town council or anything like that. The only question I have is if you're already in January, I mean, begs the question, is it really 7 million? Are we down to 3 or 5?
That would be delightful.
That would.
How could it be
No.
7 if you're that?
Well, it could come down.
You should know that there are provisions in those agreements that provide for them to give us, updated certified, cash flow projections, et cetera and so forth. So that number could be very well refined downward.
Yeah, I would-
depending on the
yeah,
things.
And how do we fund that, not knowing what we're gonna just borrow as they borrow from us?
We would do a bond resolution for an amount of money. Is that what we talked about?
Because you don't know when they're gonna pay you back. You don't know when they're gonna draw. I mean, I'm just,
No, but you see,
curious.
the whole point
need
is
it.
that
But they will.
it basically, it's a cash flow facility that
Right.
bridges their cash flow, their cash.
we're
flow.
acting as a revolver, but I'm just wondering how we're funding that out of the general.
Well,
fund, or
there's
I
a
don't-
number of ways we could fund it.
Kind of like we've
If,
done
if,
yours.
but the funding has nothing to do with the appropriation.
No, I know, but I'm just
Okay,
trying to think
we-
through the match
And
funding.
the bonding resolution is simply to have in our back pocket, if that's the way we choose to go.
Okay.
There might be other
right.
funding approaches that we want to examine as we go along, especially if the total need shrinks,
Yeah.
which is
That's right.
entirely possible.
That's right.
One of the things we have to keep in mind is there's always the unexpected and the contingency that they can't raise the last $1 million of the project. And so that's why we need the 10 years to allow for an orderly repayment of whatever they borrowed to finish the building. Because if they have to borrow, finish the building in the next 24 months, then that's done.
Okay, well,
And presumably they're
August.
gonna raise that money and pay us back in over a period of a few years. And there's a fat tail that goes on the fundraising, the kind of a long tail to it that goes out 3, 4, 5 years. So we have to provide for that money. That's why you have the 10-year term on.
did Bob say anything about maybe it'll be a lower amount today? Just January, just could be out pushed up. Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions?
It'll be the bond.
Anything else? Michael, you good?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you so much.
All right, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Amy, second. Neil's not here. We need another second.
I'll second.
Michael, all right. Good job.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye, opposed? None. Adjourned. And we will have a virtual call in August, no face-to-face, but we probably need an hour in August to clean up a few of these things. The funding for the police.
Hang out and we're coming to Rhode Island.
All right, well,
Just coming in.
game on. All right, I like that. Okay, so